Number 9. Anar Alakvarenov. In August of 2017, 26-year-old mixed martial artist Anar Alakvarenov and champion weightlifter Andrei Drakev, aged 32, faced each other in a bare-knuckle fight to see whose sport was superior. It was reported that Alakvarenov and his friends had provoked and taunted Drakev until he agreed to the street fight. The confrontation took place near an intersection in the Russian city of Khabarovsk, and videos of it subsequently became viral. Drakev, who'd reportedly taken part in similar brawls in the past, was considerably taller and heavier than the MMA practitioner, but never got the chance to take advantage of the size difference. Alakvarenov delivered a roundhouse kick to the weightlifter's head, which knocked him out. Drakev rose from the pavement on wobbly legs, but was kicked down once more. As he lay unconscious, Alakvarenov delivered several powerful punches, pummeling his head into the pavement. Drakev succumbed to the injuries sustained in the fight, while a manhunt was launched to bring Alakvarenov to justice. He ultimately turned himself in and was sentenced to 18 years in prison after being found guilty of homicide. Number 8. Dean Maxwell. In February of 2021, during an MMA event in Australia, Dean Maxwell suffered a potentially career-ending injury. His opponent, Randall the Limb Reaper Raymond, landed a devastating calf kick to his right leg. The shot was so powerful and accurate that it broke Maxwell's leg in 2 places. It sent his limb flying into the air, but the damage was only visible when he tried to plant it back on the mat again. As he put weight on his foot, Maxwell's leg snapped. It sustained a broken tibia and a broken fibula, for which he'd be out for several months. Number 7. Thomas Gary Mawson. In 2015, former cage fighter Thomas Gary Mawson killed a man with his bare hands after they'd both agreed to violently settle their differences over an incident which had taken place years earlier. Mawson and Brian Knox, both residents of Washington, had socialized and trained at the same gym. Friction arose between them as Knox accused Mawson of having made a pass at his partner, which the woman had denied at the time. After a couple of years in July of 2015, Knox brought up the argument again and then contacted Mawson so that they could have a straightener. The two men met in a back alley in the Stevenson Industrial Estate and started striking each other. At some point, 36-year-old Mawson put Knox in a rear naked choke. The move, which was a fight-winning favorite of his, involved being behind an opponent and applying pressure to their neck. It can cause temporary loss of consciousness, but is generally harmless if released in time. Mawson, however, squeezed Knox's neck so hard that he broke a bone and a cartilage. Not realizing he was injured, the former cage fighter then slammed him into the pavement. A photo of the 32-year-old victim was later found on his phone, which prosecutors argued he'd taken as a trophy. Mawson was arrested and pled guilty to manslaughter, for which he received a 5-year sentence. Number 6. Blagoy Ivanov. Before he was signed by the Ultimate Fighting Championship, MMA's top promotion, Bulgarian heavyweight Blagoy Ivanov nearly died following a nightclub altercation in his home country. In late February of 2012, a group of 8 men entered a club called Ice in Sofia and attacked Ivanov. It's unclear who started the brawl, but the main suspect in the case, identified only as Dampella, was said to have picked a fight with Ivanov in a drunken rage. In the ensuing chaos, he stabbed the mixed martial artist through the sternum, damaging one of his lungs. Dampella, who had a lengthy criminal record, would remain in permanent detention following his arrest. Although wounded, Ivanov fought off all the attackers and even managed to hail a cab to a hospital. For a number of weeks, he remained in critical care. In March, his condition deteriorated and he was placed in a medically induced coma until mid-May. Ivanov ultimately recovered and returned to MMA in September of 2013, winning his next 4 fights. Number 5. Tyrone Mims. To this day, the death of mixed martial artist Tyrone Mims remains a mystery. On August 11th of 2012, Mims was fighting at an event in South Carolina called Conflicts MMA Fight Night. The bout was stopped in the second round after Mims was unable to continue. He told the cage-side physician that he wasn't hurt but only tired. Teammates helped the 30-year-old to the locker room where he abruptly collapsed and lost consciousness. Mims was transported to a hospital where he passed away that same day. The coroner couldn't find anything to explain his death. He didn't have brain trauma or a concussion, and no drugs or alcohol was found in his system. There was only speculation that he might have suffered from an electrical dysfunction in his heart, but evidence of such a condition wouldn't present itself during an autopsy. Number 4. Irwin Rivera. In January of 2021, UFC bantamweight fighter Irwin "The Beast" Rivera was arrested for stabbing both of his sisters with a brass knuckle knife. The women, aged 22 and 33, were staying with the fighter in one of his spare rooms in Palm Springs, Florida. They awoke in the middle of the night to Rivera stabbing them. According to a police report, the younger sister was found next to a roadway with wounds on her head, back, and arms. The second victim was recovered from inside the house with similar injuries. Both were rushed to the hospital and survived the brutal attack. Rivera was arrested but didn't know his sisters were alive and told the authorities he'd killed them because he'd been told to do so by a higher power. According to subsequent reports on the matter, Rivera was held in a mental health facility while awaiting trial. Both sisters later stated that they loved him and hoped he'd get the help that he needed. Number 3. Alistair Overeem. While competing in the UFC, Dutch heavyweight Alistair Overeem delivered a number of memorable performances but also suffered a gruesome injury. It occurred late in his run with the promotion during a December 2019 bout with Ceremonies fighter Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Going into the 5th round, the Dutch heavyweight was ahead on all the judges' scorecards. Then in the final seconds of the bout, Rozenstruik landed a heavy right hand that not only knocked out Overeem, but also severely split his upper lip. Overeem lost the fight and was left disfigured, with a gruesome gash in his lip that had separated it into 2 dangling flaps of skin. The fighter got the wound stitched up right away and ultimately recovered with minimal scarring. Number 2. War Machine. Mixed martial artist Jonathan Paul Koppenhaver, who in 2008 had legally changed his name to War Machine, was arrested in 2014 for brutally assaulting his girlfriend, adult film actress Christy McInday, professionally known as Christy Mack. War Machine had a promising MMA career but was dropped from the UFC and Bellator, in part due to his volatile personality. He also had violent confrontations outside of the sport, which resulted in several assault convictions. In 2009, he announced that along with MMA, he'd be pursuing a career in the adult film industry. He met McInday during a photo shoot for Hustler in 2013, and they began dating. Roughly a year later, she ended the relationship, claiming that War Machine had been physically and mentally abusive to her. On August the 8th of 2014, War Machine assaulted McInday and Corey Thomas, a man she was seeing at the time, in the former's Las Vegas home. He beat Thomas to a bloody pulp for 10 minutes straight, but ultimately let him go after he promised not to report the attack to the police. For the next couple of hours, War Machine savagely assaulted McInday. She was cut with a knife and repeatedly struck, sustaining 12 missing teeth, 18 broken bones, a ruptured liver, and a fractured rib. McInday was only able to escape with her life by running to a neighbor's house when her aggressor's back was turned. While War Machine was the subject of a manhunt, he would post tweets lamenting his situation, which made it easier for the authorities to track him. He was arrested and sentenced to life, with a minimum of 36 years served. Number 1. Rondell Clark. On August the 12th of 2017, Rondell Clark was taking part in his second amateur MMA bout at an event in Plymouth, Massachusetts. The fight was stopped in the 3rd round after 26-year-old Clark appeared to be too tired to properly defend himself, and the victory was awarded to his opponent. After the fight, Clark, who sustained very little damage, had trouble breathing and was taken to a Boston hospital. It was there that his kidneys started to fail, which led to his entire system shutting down. He was pronounced dead on August the 15th, only 3 days after the fight. Clark had succumbed to severe rhabdomyolysis, a rapid breakdown of muscle tissue caused by extreme dehydration and overexertion. His death was attributed to the brutal weight cut that he'd put his body through prior to the bout. In combat sports, weight is perceived as a great advantage, and to make their sanctioned class, many fighters need to cut weight. This can be done by gradually losing fat and muscle in the weeks before an event, as well as by losing water weight in the days leading up to it. The latter is arguably more taxing, as forced dehydration greatly endangers bodily functions. Thanks for watching. Would you rather fight an MMA champion for a 5-minute round or try to survive in an arena with an enraged bull? Let us know in the comments section below.